It's out there right now, and there's no sense pretending the heat isn't real. We're smack in the middle of the season's hardest stretch. The longest days, the fiercest sun, the sort of scorching weather that tempts a person to retreat to the porch shade and let the garden manage on its own. And I'll say it straight, plenty of gardens do exactly that come midsummer. The early crops wear themselves out. The heat finishes off what's left standing. Insects move in thick. By the close of July, the whole patch looks worn down and done. But here's something the old-timers understood that most of us have lost track of. July isn't the finish line for a garden. It's the starting gun for its second act. What goes into the soil right now in the roughest part of the heat is what determines whether your garden collapses come August or keeps your family fed clear through autumn and into the first frost. The sweat you put in today is the difference between a bare, empty bed in October and a table loaded with food once the pumpkins are frosted over. I'm Elias Yodar, and here at Primal Life, I work a plot of land in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, that's been in my family since 1838. One of the earliest lessons my grandfather passed down about gardening was that a smart grower is always a season ahead in his thinking. While you're still harvesting the spring planting, you ought to already be tucking seed in for fall. The garden never truly stops, it just shifts direction. So today I want to walk through 5 things worth putting in the ground this month, so your harvest keeps coming long after the lazier gardens have surrendered to the weeds. I still picture my grandmother out there on a July evening, once the day's worst heat had finally loosened its grip, kneeling down a row in the cool of dusk, tucking seed into the soil while everyone else figured the growing season was practically over. I was just a kid and it made no sense to me. I asked her why she was planting anything when everything was already grown in. She glanced up and told me, "Child, this isn't for now. This is for November." She wasn't growing for that week's supper. She was growing for the table 3 months down the line, when the killing cold had wiped out every other garden in the valley, and ours was still holding green beneath the frost cloth. That's the entire secret, and it isn't much of a secret at all. It's simply thinking ahead and putting in a little effort through the heat for a payoff that arrives much later. The first crop to get in, and the simplest by far, is the string bean. July tends to be a rough month for starting most things directly outdoors, what with the heat, the sun, and the insects. But the bean shrugs off all of that better than nearly anything else, which is exactly why it's such a smart pick right now. There's no fussing with starting seed indoors in trays and transplanting later. You drop the seed straight into the ground where it's meant to grow, and it comes up easy and stays easy. That's direct sowing, and beans were built for it. The other beauty of the bean is how little trouble it gives you with pests or disease. If your tomatoes, cucumbers, and squash are getting chewed apart and spotted this time of year, and they often are, the beans nearby just keep growing untroubled. Across all my years farming, I can barely recall a disease ever touching my beans. I've never had to babysit them the way I do the more delicate crops. They simply grow. There's a real reason behind that too, and it's worth knowing. The bean essentially feeds itself through its roots, pulling what it needs right out of the air trapped in the soil, so it isn't nearly as demanding as heavy feeders like corn or squash. Its leaves are tougher, its whole constitution is hardier. So the heat that stops a tomato cold and the bugs that overrun a cucumber patch just pass the bean right by. When everything else in the July garden is struggling, the bean is the one crop you can lean on. That alone makes it worth keeping a row going at all times. One thing worth knowing depends on where you're growing. If you're up north or anywhere summers run shorter and milder, you can sow your beans today without giving it a second thought. They'll do just fine. But if you're down south or out west where the sun hits like a hammer and the heat never really breaks, that punishing sun can toughen the bean, making the pods a bit chewier. Still fine to eat, just less tender. So in that kind of fierce sun, Plant your beans, but stretch a light shade cloth over some hoops or a simple frame to soften the worst of the sun on the young plants. Light filtering softly through the shade cloth onto green plants. You've got nothing to lose. You can always take it down later if the plants seem to want more light. Better to have the cover and not need it. The second crop, and one you'll regret skipping, is potatoes. I've already gone over how I plant mine. The deep planting, the cut seed, all of it. So I won't repeat that here. What matters for a July planting is timing, because potatoes put in this month give you a fall harvest that'll carry you clear through winter. There's no better crop for storage in the whole garden. You let them grow until frost knocks the tops down or the vines die back naturally. Then you dig, cure, and store them, and they'll keep in a cool, dark cellar or garage for months on end. My fall potatoes routinely last me right into spring. Here's how you work out the timing, and you base it on your own area's first frost. If your frost tends to arrive early, late September or early October, get your seed potatoes into the ground in early July. That gives them a couple weeks to break through the surface, and roughly 2 more months to develop solid potatoes underground before the cold sets in. And if the timing's tight, don't panic over a light frost. Since it only kills the foliage, the potatoes themselves stay safe underground in the dark. If you notice plants pushing up and a hard freeze approaching, just mound extra soil or mulch over them for protection. But if your first frost usually holds off until late October or into November, which is closer to my own situation, where it's typically mid-October or later, you're better off waiting and planting in the back half of July instead. The reason is that potatoes don't tolerate excessive heat well, and putting them in during the peak of August's swelter just makes the plant sulk. So I lay my seed potatoes out first on a counter or shelf in indirect light, never direct sun, and let them sit a week or two until the eyes wake up and send out short, sturdy sprouts. Then I plant them at month's end, and they emerge during the cooler stretch and grow contentedly through September and October. If you need seed potatoes, there are 3 straightforward routes. You can buy dedicated seed potatoes grown specifically for planting, which sprout fast and reliably. You can pick up organic potatoes from the grocery store, since those haven't been treated with the chemical that prevents sprouting, so you can let them green up and sprout, or plant them right away. Or you can dig through the back of your own pantry, because nearly everyone has a forgotten potato tucked away that's already started sprouting on its own, and that one's ready to plant directly. The one thing you can't do is grab an ordinary, unsprouted grocery potato, since most have been treated to keep them from sprouting on the shelf, and planting one of those often just leaves it rotting in the ground before it ever comes up. But if a regular potato has already sprouted naturally in your pantry, the treatment has worn off and it's perfectly safe to plant. So really there's no excuse. Everyone can scrounge up a potato to put in the ground. The third crop for July is basil. This is precisely the right moment to start a second round of it. If you planted basil back in spring, odds are it's beginning to bolt right about now, meaning it's pushing to flower and go to seed. Once that happens, the leaves turn bitter and the plant is basically finished. And if you never got around to planting basil at all this year, go ahead and start your first round now. You'll still get a good crop out of it. Basil ranks among the easiest, least demanding things you can grow, and it gives you options for starting it. Sow it directly in the ground or start it in trays and transplant later, whichever suits your setup. I start mine indoors in trays myself, since we get pounding rains here that would wash tiny basil seed right out of the soil. But if your rainfall is gentler, sow it directly and skip the extra work. The reason to start that second round now is to keep young, vigorous plants coming up right behind the older ones. July's heat starts wearing down spring basil, and even with regular trimming, it helps to have fresh, young plants growing alongside that are less eager to bolt. That's an old rule, and a good one. Always keep 2 generations of basil going at once, an older batch and a younger one, so you're covered either way and never go without. There are several varieties worth growing. There's the common sweet basil most people know from the kitchen, and there are varieties bred to resist the mildew that shows up in damp conditions. Worth seeking out if your falls tend to run wet and basil has died on you before. Grow a few types if you enjoy variety. But whatever you're growing, tend your older plants while you're at it. Walk the row, spot any sending up flower heads. The leaves beneath will take over, and removing the flowering that way stretches the plant's productive life considerably. The fourth crop, and this one always catches people off guard, is romaine lettuce. Most folks assume lettuce is strictly a cold weather crop, and they're half right. The truth is that romaine doesn't want an actual frost on it. A hard frost or freeze will damage the heads. What it wants is to reach full size during the mild days and cool nights of fall, before real cold arrives. To make that timing work, you have to start it now, while it's still warm, so it's ready to mature during that sweet, cool autumn window. You manage this by starting seeds indoors where it isn't brutally hot, then transplant the young plants outside once the weather starts to shift, essentially getting a head start on the season. Base this timing on your own first frost as well. If frost hits at the end of September or early October, start romaine seeds indoors in early July, since the seedlings need 4 to 6 weeks of growth before transplanting. Then move them into the garden around mid-August. That gives them 6 to 8 weeks to develop into solid heads before the cold arrives. If an early frost threatens, throw a light cover over them, a frost blanket or garden fabric, to protect the heads and keep them pristine. But if your frost typically holds off until late October or November, as mine does, wait and start romaine seeds toward the very end of July, transplanting in early to mid-September once the worst heat has broken. They'll grow through the back half of September into October and give you a strong harvest before any serious cold hits. And if it's still hot when you transplant, cover them briefly with shade cloth, around 40%, to take the edge off until temperatures drop. That buys a few weeks of buffer if the heat lingers or your timing runs a touch early. I'll say it plainly. A fall romaine beats a spring one every time. Spring lettuce matures just as temperatures climb, and warm weather turns lettuce bitter and loose. Fall romaine matures as nights are cooling down, which gives you a sweeter, crisper, more tender head consistently. If you've never carried lettuce into the fall season, this is the year to try it. With a decent layer of garden fabric to keep hard frost and freezing off, romaine can handle a surprising amount of cold and keep going well into winter. But you have to keep that killing frost off the leaves, since even a light frost settling directly on an exposed leaf will damage it. The fifth and final crop for July is another round of cucumbers and zucchini. These belong to the same family and share the same basic pattern. They come up fast, grow fast, produce fast, and then die off fast. Try to baby one of these plants along all summer and you'll only end up disappointed because they simply aren't built to last. A cucumber vine or a zucchini plant has maybe 2 or 3 good months in it before the heat, humidity, and insects wear it down, no matter how well you care for it. The solution isn't to fight that reality, it's to work with it, the way old-time market growers always did. That's succession planting. Putting in a fresh batch every 4 to 6 weeks throughout the season, so new plants are always hitting their stride right as the older ones wind down. I had cucumbers just a few weeks back that looked the picture of health, cranking out fruit like they'd never quit. Now, barely 3 or 4 weeks on, most are spent and pulled. That's simply their nature. But because I've got a fresh tray of young plants ready to go into the ground, I'm never left without. As the old vines finish up, the new ones are already climbing and about to fruit, and the harvest never has a gap. So get your new cucumbers and zucchini in now, and plan to add more in another month, and again after that. Plant them where an exhausted crop has just come out, a bed where early potatoes were dug, or a tired tomato patch that's finished. As long as you're not replanting the exact same family too tightly on the same ground, which spreads disease. Keep young plants coming steadily every 4 to 6 weeks, and you'll be picking cucumbers and squash right up until frost finally shuts it down. Now let me say something plain, because it's really the lesson underneath all 5 of these crops. You don't have to be at the mercy of the weather. That's the thing I want you to take from this. Too many people look at a brutal summer or an early winter and just throw up their hands, letting the season get the better of them. But a gardener has tools, simple ones, that let him bend the season a little to his own will. When it's too hot, shade cloth stretched over some hoops cools things enough to start crops early. When cold moves in, garden fabric draped over the beds keeps frost off and lets you grow weeks, even months past when you'd otherwise expect to stop. Shade cloth buys you the early end of the season. Fabric buys you the late end. Combine the two, and you've stretched your growing year considerably on both sides, using nothing more than some cloth, a few hoops, and knowing when to use them. And I'll tell you plainly who benefits from you not knowing any of this, though it's hardly a villain, so don't expect a big conspiracy. There's simply no profit in someone planting a second garden from seed they saved themselves and covering it with an old scrap of cloth. Nobody gets rich off you eating out of your own backyard clear into December. The whole system is built around selling you vegetables in the store during the dead of winter, trucked in from somewhere far away, and there's no salesman anywhere with a reason to teach you to grow your own instead. It's not that anyone's actively hiding it, it's just that nobody profits from teaching it, so it quietly fades away. One generation knowing a little less than the one before. That's the whole of it. No scheme, no plot. The money simply flows the other direction. So there you have it. Plant your string beans, since they're tough, easy, and bugs mostly leave them alone. Get your fall potatoes in, early or late, depending on your own frost date, for a storage crop that'll carry you through winter. Start a second round of basil so you're never caught short. Start your romaine now so it finishes sweet in the cool of fall. And keep putting in cucumbers and zucchini every few weeks so the harvest never stops. Do all that in the thick of July's heat while the lazy gardens are giving up, and you'll still be eating from your own ground long after theirs have gone to weeds. Let me know down in the comments what county you're gardening in and when your first frost usually hits, since that number is what decides all your timing, and it's genuinely useful for others here to see how it shifts from place to place. And tell me what you're putting in this month for fall. I always enjoy hearing what does well on someone else's ground. Next time, I want to walk through building a proper compost pile, the old-fashioned way, layer by layer across the season, so that by planting time again, you've got your own rich, crumbly black gold to feed all these crops. That's the piece that makes everything else work. But for now, remember this: the garden doesn't end in July. It only turns. Plant now in the worst of the heat, and you'll be eating in the very best of the fall. The people who built this country with their own 2 hands understood that, and we're only just now starting to remember.